The handicap index should always reflect your demonstrated ability. But on occasion, even the best golfers have bad days and bad holes. The net double bogey adjustment sets a maximum score on any hole for handicap purposes, ensuring bad holes don't impact your handicap index too severely. Working out your net double bogey score on a hole is simple and calculated as follows. Par of the hole plus 2 strokes plus any handicap strokes the player receives on that hole. Where the format of play allows, you should pick up your ball when you reach this maximum hole score. That keeps your game and the game of everyone else on the course moving along. A bad hole might mean you can no longer win the competition, but thanks to the net double bogey adjustment, you can still submit an acceptable score for handicap purposes.
Okay, max score obviously is now net double bogey. So let's look at what that looks like. It's par plus 2 strokes plus any pops you would essentially receive. Pretty simple, depending upon your sophistication when it comes to the handicap system. And it's a little more consistent for everybody involved. So it's par plus a double bogey plus any handicap strokes you would have received. And that is what your net double bogey is. All right? Any questions on that?
But the people that don't enter their score for that hole, what's it going to do?
Okay, so let me see if I can paraphrase that just a little bit. So you're asking if the whole data is being used to go into the playing conditions calculation?
Yes.
Okay. That is not at that level. It is just based on the 18-hole differential from that day. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay? But that's an excellent question. Okay. To further qualify what a net double bogey looks like, you're going to see this is called a stroke index. It used to be the old handicap hole allocations. But essentially, this is what it looks like. If somebody would get a pop because their handicap index is an 18, which means they get, the course handicap is an 18, means they get a pop on every hole. So essentially, if someone makes an 8 on 17, you would actually only post a 7 for a net double bogey there. Pretty self-explanatory, I would think. And again, the system works that in there for you. All right. So for competition purposes, it'd be 95. For score handicap purposes, it'd be 94. Not that dissimilar to what we had before. All right, now let's talk a little bit about most likely score. We have essentially seen some of this in the past as to, let's say that you didn't finish a hole because somebody holed out from the fairway or they're in for 4 and you can't help them and you want to go to the next tee, which certainly is probably the right thing to do. So when a player starts but does not complete a hole, the score recorded for handicap purposes is the most likely score. So these rules of handicapping have these guidelines, all right? All right, so on the putting green within 5 feet, you're supposed to add 1 additional stroke. But again, you know, what's your make percentage of 5-foot putts, all right? If you're having a particularly bad day, maybe you're not going to 1-putt from 5 feet. Again, 5 to 20 yards, it's 2 to 3, and additional 20 yards is 3 to 4. So you're going to have to say, what's the score you're most likely going to have? Well, I don't know what that's going to be, and maybe you can refer to this then. I mean, this is really getting back into the weeds, but essentially that's now a recommendation. All right? Didn't have that before. Okay, so from a hole not played, that hasn't changed. Realize that from acceptability of score purpose, postus, whatever format is authorized within the rules of handicapping obviously is postable. Scores in both match and stroke play, including multiple ball events, team competitions. Scores on all courses with current course ratings and slope ratings, and there may be a few golf courses out there that don't have a rating any longer. I think we're trying to help them get those completed. We just did Rocky Lakes this winter. That was the only one that I'm aware of. Scores made under rules of golf, modified rules, players with disabilities, You've got to still play with what, you still have to have someone else with you. That person doesn't have to be playing. It could be your spouse or whatever the case may be. You have to be accompanied by at least one person. And then obviously model local rules, even if the committee has adopted those. So we're talking about alternative option for stroke and distance, which I think a lot of people used this year. I think it was pretty well received. And then preferred lies. So preferred lies, if you play preferred lies, you have a postable score. Plain and simple. All right? And I know that I get that question probably more than any. Should I post scores for preferred lies? The answer is yes. It all has been yes. All right, so then these are unacceptable scores. Foursomes, also known as alternate shot, scrambles, or when being coached. So there's obviously, you post almost all the time. Almost all the time. All right. So treatment of 9-hole scores, 7 or more, but fewer than 14. You do 9. That's a 9-hole score. Then you put those two 9s together, so that's the same. All right. What happens if we play fewer than 9 holes? For 9-hole score to be accepted, you must play a minimum of 7 holes to be played, which this is no different. And then essentially for holes 8 and 9, produced by adding the net par with the remaining holes. So if it's a par 4 and you get a pop, it'll be a 5 for hole 8. No different than how it had been. Any issues with this?
In other words, if you got one pop for that hole, you would put down a 5. Let's say you got bit by the dart. Okay.
Exactly. So it is dark. You're not finishing up that last hole. You want to post your score. Well, you should put. You're posting your score, which you've done everything correctly to post a score. Then it's whatever the par would be plus any stroke index allocation that would be issued for that hole. So yes.
4 would become a 5.
4 would become a 5.
Okay.
Yeah. If you get one stroke.
Right.
Okay. And then obviously we're combining 9 holes into an 18-hole score differential. Now, this changes a little bit because now we have to get ready for the playing conditions calculation, which happens nightly. So we essentially want everything to be posted by midnight local time. All right. If the player does not submit their score, and this is to your point just a little bit as far as carrying it through, if a player does not submit their score on the day of play, their score will not be included within the daily playing conditions calculation. So clearly we need that data from that day to adjust that differential from that round. But let's say that you do record it on the correct day, but 2 days later, your differential is then essentially going to, your differential will then get that playing conditions calculation. So one of the things that they're trying to define a little better is a home club. So if you're a member at 2 clubs in the Miami Valley, you're going to want to select one for your home club. And it can change. And when you go to Florida, that's going to obviously become your home club. But when you move back up here for the summer, then you would change your home club at that point. And this is a little bit more of a responsibility from a handicap committee component.
Steve,
Yes.
The two, I know in the past people have had a Florida handicap and up here, that goes away.
What Larry asked about was people having different handicap indexes in different parts of the country.
Right.
So this is a two-pronged question. It used to be that if the facility anywhere in the United States was on the GIN network, if you were playing down in Florida, you had the same GIN number as you did up here. There's other calculation services out there. Blue Golf in Indiana, Wisconsin is a primary example of that. So if you're running a golf event in our market, you have to go to their website to get that data to put it in to run your event. Now, the World Handicap System, every score is actually being calculated by that national authority. So everything has to go into there and then come back out. So Indiana scores will be available through Golf Genius next year. They may not be using GIN as the calculation platform, you might say, but all scores are being resided in the same spot. So there's still a barrier of you making sure that when you go down to Florida, if you've got a different GIN number than you have here, that they need to be the same one.